Hello, this is Ron Climer, and this is part of the Black Shirt series. In fact, this is the 5th of the Black Shirt series. Now, if you're in my class, this should be the 5th one of these that you're watching, because there's 4 other ones that are online already. I'm putting this one up today. Now, I emailed this question to my class yesterday, and y'all were having trouble with this in class Tuesday night. So let me read this. I think it should be readable on the movie, but I'm not really dead positive. A buyer bought a house for $295,000. He paid $3,000 in closing costs. When he applied for a 70% LTV loan, LTV, loan to value, he paid $300 for the appraisal. The transaction is closed on 6/30/16. The lender insisted on collecting interim interest and 4 months taxes and 3 months insurance for the impound account. The buyer's insurance was $600, POC, paid outside of closing, and the taxes were $1,200. Due diligence fee was $1,000. Earnest money was $15,000, and the interest rate for the loan was 4%. Now the question is, how much money does the buyer need to bring to closing? Now, if you don't have this written down yet, I want you to write it down, because I'm going to take it away in just a minute. I'm going to move this camera over to the blackboard where I'm going to show you how to do this. And so I assume that you've got it written down by now. I probably should write it down myself to see how long it takes to write it down. But by the way, if you're one of my students, you've already got it in the email. Now, with that thought in mind, let me bring the camera over here. And I think, I'm not exactly sure. Let me crank this down a little bit. I'm going to this seminar about video production next week. Maybe it'll do me some good. We'll see. Anyway, let's see. I'm Ron Climer, and as I said, I'm with First Real Estate School in Hendersonville, North Carolina. And this is the kind of question you may encounter on the North Carolina real estate exam. And so, if you haven't seen the other videos I have, those are also questions that you may encounter on the North Carolina real estate exam. So, incidentally, somebody asked me what was my email address, and it's ronclimer@yahoo.com. So if for any reason you want to get in touch with me, there I am. All right, question says, buyer bought a house for $295,000. And question is, how much money do they need to bring to closing? Now, let me remind y'all that we have debits and we have credits. Everybody remember that. The debits are money coming towards you at the closing, if you're the buyer or seller, and the debits are the money going away from you at the closing. So what we need to do is take this problem and might as well start out with the debits and see how much credits Mr. Buyer needs to come up with. I have a calculator, and I hope you have a calculator. In fact, if you don't, hit pause and go get one. Because everybody got this? The debits are the bad news. Debit, damn it. Credits are the good news. If it's good news, money coming at you. Debit, money going away from you. Now, we're talking about the buyer in this half of the problem. So we're talking about the buyer And the buyer has one big old gigantic debit called the price. So the price is a debit. And so the $295,000 price is a debit. Well, let's look and see what other debits he's got. This is money he's got to bring into the closing or is going out of the closing. In this case, he's got to bring $3,000 in closing. So he's got to pay $295,000 plus $3,000 more for his closing cost. Plus, it says the lender wants him to collect interim interest. Now, everybody remember what interim interest is. We make our first payment, and we're having this closing on June the 30th. June the 30th. Our first payment is not going to be due tomorrow on July 1st. It's going to be due on August the 1st. So when that first payment is due, we're going to pay the interest for the month of July. Well, when does the bank get the interest for the month of June? And the answer is they have the closing agent collected at closing, and it's called interim interest. Well, how much is the interest? Well, in order to compute the interest, we need to figure out the loan amount. All right? We know the price is $295,000, and we know the loan to value is 70%. So 70% of $295,000, I've got a calculator, you get a calculator. Don't you sit there like a bump on a log and say, well, Ron will do the arithmetic for me. You get your calculator and do this arithmetic. $295,000 times 0.70. So the mortgage that our hero is going to get is $206,500. That's the amount of the mortgage that our buyer is going to get, $206,500. And he's going to be paying 4% interest on this money. All right, 4% of that, take your calculator, you got the $206,500 right on the face of the calculator, times 0.04, then the calculator says $8,260 per year. I'm going to walk over to the camera and see if the camera's picking that up. And that's about as low as we can go. All right, so that's $8,260 a year in interest. Now, we're using the 360-day method. As I understand it, that's what we're supposed to do on the exam. So we're going to divide that by 360 days in the year, divided by 360 days, or you may have learned divide by 12 and divide by 30. But what we're trying to get to is the daily interest. And the daily interest is $22.60. Whoops, that's not right. $22.94. $22.94 per day. And notice we're closing on June the 30th. So how many days do we have to pay? Just one, the 30th of June. But that's $22.94 that the buyer is going to have to pay to the bank on the closing statement, and that's going to be another debit. $22.94 interim interest. All right? Now, it says also that the bank also wants the closing agent to collect 4 months' taxes. Now let me remind you, when we make our payments, PI-TI. So the T and I, taxes and insurance, the bank collects that money and puts it in a little escrow account. At closing, they want to get a little head start on you. So they want to take the $1,200 taxes, they want to divide that by 12, and so the taxes are $100 per month. They want to collect 4 months taxes. Why 4 months? Because it says so in the test question. That's why. So we're going to take the $100 a month times 4 months. So that is $400. This is called prepaid interest or interim interest. I'm sorry, it's not called prepaid interest. That's the other thing. These are called prepaids out in street language. For our purpose in this class, it's usually called the escrow, because the bank puts that money in the escrow account or the impound account, they call it, because they impound that money. So when the tax bill comes, they'll have the money to pay it. So that's another $400 that we need to get to closing. I'm going to erase this. Now, we're going to do the same thing with the insurance, which is $600. So the insurance is $600. We're dividing that by 12, $50 a month, and we're going to collect 3 months insurance. 3 months or $150. So that's another $150 that we're going to need to get to closing. So we're going to need $295 plus $3,000 in closing costs plus $22.95 in daily interest. Daily interest. We got 4 months taxes, 3 months insurance, and we got these closing costs. Now, on the test, these closing costs might be enumerated out as the origination fee, the discount points, this fee, that fee. If they are, just be prepared for that. I just grouped them together this way because I was too lazy to itemize them out. All right, what else have we got that we got to bring to closing? Now, we've got an appraisal for $300, but that's already been paid for. What do we call that? POC, paid outside of closing. And we've also got the insurance policy for the first year. As you know, we buy insurance in advance, so we pay for the first year, and typically, usually, most of the time, this is done outside of closing. So outside of closing, we pay that. For our purposes here, we don't care. On a TRID closing statement, that'll be enumerated on the closing statement with the POC in parentheses. All right, what else have we got? What else have we got going away from us? That's it. Have we got any good news coming to us? Have we got any credits coming to us? Yes, we do. We've got the due diligence fee. Now don't forget, the seller has the due diligence fee in his pocket. Had we not gone to closing, he would have kept that due diligence fee. But we're going to closing. He's going to turn that money over to the buyer. Debit to the seller, credit to the buyer. So that is $1,000. You know what? Let me move that down just a smidgen. That's $1,000 that we can subtract from the money that the buyer needs to bring to closing. Now we've also got $15,000 in earnest money deposit. Now where is that money right now? It's in the broker's escrow account, and it's going to flow onto the buyer's side of the ledger as a credit. More good news. $15,000 coming in the right direction. And did I forget anything? Due diligence fee, earnest money deposit, and interest rate was 4%. How much money does the buyer need to bring to closing? Let me check my notes. Oh, what is that number there? Oh, good job. Well, that's the seller's numbers. 4-3, and we got the. Oh. What about the tax proration? It's June the 30th. The seller's been living in the house for 6 months. The buyer's going to receive a tax bill in September for $1,200. The seller is going to turn his portion of the tax bill over to the buyer right now. That's a credit to the buyer. Is that right? There's another $600 that we don't have to come up with. How do we get the $600? The taxes are $1,200 divided by 12. That's $100 a month. January, February, March, April, May, June. 6 months have gone by. The day of closing belongs to the seller unless somebody tells you otherwise. And on the North Carolina real estate exam, we always use the 12-month, 30-day method. So there's 12 months, and they all have 30 days. So that's $600 that the seller owes to the buyer, shows on the closing statement as a credit to the buyer. So the buyer's got a $600 smiley face there. Any more good news? Let's see, this is the due diligence fee, is that right? This is the earnest money deposit, escrow deposit, and this is the prorated taxes. Any more credits? What's the biggest credit the buyer usually has? How about the mortgage amount? The mortgage amount is a credit because the bank's going to send a check for $206,500. They're going to bring that check for $206,500. So that's going to be a credit. All right? Hold it, I'm going to check my camera. Are we doing okay? All right, so that's $206,500 that the buyer doesn't have to bring to closing. Maybe he's got to pay it back one of these days, but he doesn't have to bring it to closing. So, all right, take the calculator. Let's start out with $295,000 plus we got to pay the closing costs, $3,000, plus we got to pay $22.94 in interest, plus we got $400 for the escrow for 4 months, plus we got $150 for the insurance escrow for 3 months. And let's just do a little subtotal there. That totals, you don't really need to do this, but I'm going to. That totals $298,572.94. All right? Those are, you might say, that's the bad news. That's the bad news because that's a whole bunch of debits. So now, let's get down to the credits. We're going to start with that number there, and we're going to subtract $1,000. We don't have to bring that because we're getting a credit for the due diligence fee, where the buyer is. We got a $15,000 credit for the earnest money deposit. We got a $600 credit for the tax that's being credited to us. And we got a $206,500 credit. And I got a different number than I got this afternoon. I hate it when that happens. Let me try it again. All right, we're going to start with $295,000, and we're going to go plus $3,000 plus $2,294 plus $400 plus $300 and that's all the bad news. Then we're going to go minus $1,000 for the due diligence, minus $15,000 for the earnest money, minus $600 for the tax, minus $206,500, and my calculator says $75,000. I'm gonna write this up here. $75,622.94. $75,622.94. And that's the answer that I got. $75,622.94. You don't have to do a closing statement since May 16th of 2016, or May of 2016, but you do have to do this. This is on the state exam, very likely on your class exam. So you've got to be able to do this. All right, let me run past it again. $295 plus the closing costs, plus the daily interest, plus the 4 months for escrow for taxes, 3 months escrow for insurance. And why is it 4 months and 3 months? Because it says so in the test question. Gives us that subtotal, but you don't really need that. Minus $1,000 credit for the due diligence fee, minus the escrow credit, minus the credit for the taxes, and minus the credit for the down payment. If the buyer shows up with $75,622.94, life is good. Now, this is the buyer's situation. Y'all hold on, I'm gonna go over to the camera. And we're gonna do the seller's situation. Let's see, I gotta. All right, I want y'all to write this down. And let's see if I have all this in here. From the previous slide, how much will the seller take home if the commission is 6 3/4%? The seller pays excise tax. The seller pays $100 to prepare the deed, and the seller's mortgage is $174,212 as of 6/22/16, which was the original close date. You may recall this deal closes on the 30th of June, but it was supposed to close on the 22nd. So apparently they ordered a payoff. They gave him that payoff, and we'll see how to hold that. Now look, I got a little hint for you down here at the bottom, just because I love you. Little hint, don't forget due diligence fee, daily interest, and prorated taxes. All right, let's go back over here, and looks like we are pretty good to go if I can. Wouldn't it be great to have an assistant to run that camera and erase this board for me? But First Real Estate School in Hendersonville is pretty much a budget operation. I'm pretty much all there is to it, and we have the lowest tuition in Western North Carolina, and we also have a review class online, and check that out if you're going to school over in over in the flat end of the state and need some help with your passing your state exam. Check that out at www.northcarolinaexamreview.com. So, all right, with that thought in mind, we want to know how much money is the seller going to take home with him. Now, the bad news for the seller is he doesn't have much good news. All he's got is debits. So he sold his house for $295,000. There you go. That's his only credit that he's going to have here in this. Sometimes the seller might have other credits, like an HOA due that's paid in advance or something like that. But in this example, he's got nothing but bad news. Now, what's the biggest debit the seller has? The real estate commission. Exactly. Real estate commission. And I know you think that's a smiley face, but it's not. It's a frowny face for the seller. So the sales price is $295,000, and the commission is 0.0675. Is that right? 0.0675, 6 3/4%. All right. Got your calculator? I got mine. My calculator says that the commission is $19,912.50. $19,912.50. And that's going to show up on the closing statement as a debit to the seller. So that is a frowny-faced debit for the commission. So he's getting this minus that. Let's see. He's also got excise tax to pay. Y'all remember the rate for that? The rate is $1 per 500. So we're going to take the $295,000. We're going to divide it by 500. We're going to divide it by 500. 295 divided by 500. And my calculator says 590. So we've got 590. And in the old days, the old days, these were stamps. You licked them and you sticked them on the document. Well, they're not stamps today, but when you do this arithmetic, if you have any number at all after the decimal, you always round up because you need another stamp. So 590 times $1 is $590. So we got $590. And who gets that money? The state of North Carolina gets that money. The state of North Carolina gets that money. So the excise tax is $590 and no cents. All right. What else we got? We got the deed preparation. That's money coming out of the seller's pocket, $100. All right. So we got the deed preparation. We got the excise tax. We got the commission. He's got a payoff on that mortgage. Now, his payoff is $174,212 as of the 22nd of June. Let me remind you, we're closing on June 30th. We're closing on June the 30th. So he's been sitting around for, well, how many days? Now, by the way, that payoff included the 22nd. So he's got to pay interest for the 23rd, the 24th, the 25th, the 26th, the 27th, the 28th, the 29th, and does he have to pay interest for the 30th? Yes, he does. In real life, maybe a little bit more, but we'll talk about that later. But he's got to pay 8 days of interest. And I forgot to tell you the interest rate, didn't I? I forgot to tell you, but I must have it somewhere because I figured it out. The interest rate is 6%. The interest rate on this payoff mortgage is 6%, and that should be given in the question there. I just forgot to put it up there. Once again, I don't have an assistant to edit my stuff for me. So the interest rate is 6%. Well, if that's true, seller's mortgage is $174,212 and times 0.06, and that is, let's see, interest equals principal times rate times time. Principal is $174,212. Interest rate is 6%, and times 1 year is $10,452.72. $10,452.72 is the annual interest. Now, as I said, as I understand it, on the North Carolina real estate exam, we always use the 12-month 30-day method, and even for this. So that's 360 days. If we take that number and divide it by 360, that gives us $29 and 3.5 cents. 290.35333. And what did I say we had? 8 days times 8 days comes to 232.28. So our interest is 232.28. I'm erasing this. So our minus daily interest is $232.82 or 83 cents, depending on how you round. So we've subtracted the deed prep, we've subtracted the excise tax, we subtracted the commission, we subtracted the payoff, and we subtracted the daily interest. I'm going to move this camera back so I can. So we've subtracted all that from the seller's proceeds, and are we done? No, we're not done. There's more bad news. By the way, all of this is bad news, bad news, bad news. The due diligence fee. How much is that? From the previous question, the due diligence fee is $1,000. That's another minus, all right? We've also got the prorated taxes, which from the previous question, $600 credit to the buyer, $600 debit to the seller. So, there you go. So the seller's getting $295 minus his deed prep, minus his excise tax, minus his commission, which was 6.75%, minus his payoff of his old mortgage, minus the interest that wasn't included in the payoff, and you got to read the question to know if it's in there or not, and minus the due diligence fee, and minus the tax proration. So the tax proration, $600. All right, let's see what we got. Do this with me. $295,000 minus $100 for the deed prep, minus $590, minus $19,912.50, minus $174,212, minus $232.80. Oops. Oh, rats. I'm starting over. $295,000 minus $100 minus $590 for the excise tax minus $19,912.50 minus $174,212 minus 232.83 minus $1,000 minus $600, and my calculator says that our seller is going to get out the door with a check for $98,352.67. $98,352.67. $98,350.67. By the way, if I didn't mention this in class, or your instructor didn't mention this in class, there's a lot of stuff that you might say to yourself, oh, why do I need to know this to sell real estate? Folks, you will be doing this every day of your life. You go sit down to take a listing, I guarantee you there's nothing the seller wants to know more than, Ron, if I sell my house, how much am I going to net? And more than once, I've had people come to the closing and they've got this sheet that I did for them back when I listed the house 3 or 4 months ago, and they go over it with a fine-tooth comb and make sure that things are what I told them they were. So this is something that, don't think this is anything like it. This is something you need to know. Of course, all we need to know is what do we need to know to pass the test, and that's this right here. But anyway, I'm Ron Climer. I'm with First Real Estate School in Hendersonville. If you're anywhere in Western North Carolina thinking about taking a real estate class, love to have you here. So come on in. And if you haven't watched the other 4 black shirt videos, watch the black shirt videos first. And don't just watch these videos like you're watching TV. You take the calculator, you go along with me. In the unlikely event that I'm going too fast, you hit the pause button, you hit the rewind button, and you don't have to raise your hand in front of 20 strangers and say, Ron, I don't quite understand this. So let's do this.